So we're just going to go ahead and start off by looking at our home page. So when you sign in on the back end of the site with your administrative credentials, this is what's going to pop up. So this is that home page. To come back to this page, we're going to select the home icon in the top left-hand corner. And that's going to bring us right back here. The home page is comprised of 3 different dashboards. Everything that I review as far as these dashboards are concerned, we can go into way further detail within the system, but this is kind of like a great snapshot area to see what's going on and what we're working with. So this first is our membership dashboard. This is where all of our member types will be listed out. So I have a member, just member type as an example in here. And then we'll have your members divided out within those member types. And so you'll see, like, I've got a number 3 there, 3 admin. One of those admin is my MemberClicks admin account. But all of your member types will have the same thing. So I'll have your member type and then a number with how many members are within that member type. Something really cool from here is if you wanted to view a list of just that specific member type, just like I can click on this admin here, this number 3. If I select that, it's going to take me to a profile list of just those 3 member types. So it'll do the same thing with your other member types as well. It'll bring you to a list, and there's so many cool things we can do in here that we're going to get to in just a little bit, probably towards the end of our training today.
Okay.
And do you guys? You'll have to remind me. Do you guys have a grace period?
Yeah, we do, and it's kind of. I sent it to you, and I think I did it right in the notification settings, but they pretty much have about a 3-month grace period. We send out the first renewal kind of right at the beginning of the month when their membership expires, and then we send them a second notice the following month and then a final notice, and then after that, then it gets cut off. So.
Awesome. So what's going to happen is with that grace period, we're actually going to see a grace period populate in here. I just turned it on, but it may take a second for the system to recognize. So that way you can actually follow your members as they move from active to grace and then from grace to lapsed. And you can do the same thing. You'll see numbers populate in the rows and you'll be able to click them. So you can, if you need to contact those people or whatever it is, you'll have the opportunity to do that.
Okay.
And then, of course, we've got our prospects down here. This is really just going to hold any non-members that you might want to contact in the system. We'll throw them right in here, and that'll allow you to email them from the system and have those emails stored.
Okay.
The second dashboard within the membership dashboard area is just this new members in the last 90 days. We know how important this is just because we know if somebody becomes a new member with you, you need to engage those people frequently and quickly just to reiterate the membership benefits they're gaining by being a member with you. So we've kind of separated them off over here and to the right. Okay. Then we have our event dashboard. This is going to pull from the event registration forms that we're going to create. So any type of events that you have coming up in the future, those are going to, of course, be shown in the upcoming expected event attendance side, this right side over here. So it's going to list the name of the event, the date of the event, and how many people have registered for the event so far. And then once those events come and pass, they're going to fall into the past event attendance. That's this section on the left, and so that's going to list the name of the event, once again, the date that it was held on, and how many people attended. And we do have a little bit of event management in our system, and so you can mark your members whether they no-showed, canceled, registered, didn't register, a couple different statuses that you can mark for that particular event for that member. I'm going to show you where you can do that at, and so you can kind of track event attendance if that's important to you guys. Okay. And then lastly, we've got our financial dashboards. I love these. So we've got aged receivables. This is just going to show you how many outstanding invoices you have by how much money and how many days. So this is going to populate a big bar graph depending on how many days past due your invoices are. If they're current and all of your money's current, it's going to be a big green bar in here. If it's maybe 1 to 30 days past due, 31 to 60 days past due, 61 to 90 days past due, or of course 91 plus days past due, then you're going to see these big red bars populate in here, and it'll show you how much money you have outstanding.
Okay.
Lastly, we've got our sales over time chart, and so what's going to happen is we have the ability to select the revenue account, which I'll enter in for you. Once we've selected our revenue account, we'll apply that filter, and it'll show us on our chart how much money has been brought in per month for that specific revenue account. Okay, does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah.
Awesome. So I'm also going to go ahead and bring up my MemberClicks test site because I think it's a little bit helpful to see some of these places populated versus just me saying it will look like. So I'm going to bring that over. It makes it a little bit harder. So here's that grace period column that I was just talking about. You won't have a pending column unless you require approval for your members before they become a member. So if you don't require approval, then you'll just have the grace column populated in here.
Yeah, we don't require any approval.
Perfect. So you won't see the pending column. And then you notice we've got past events, we've got upcoming events, and then here's those charts. So this is, we just all play around in this test site. One time I had somebody say, MemberClicks isn't doing very well on financials. I was like, no, 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 no. These are not real numbers. So you'll notice you've got big red bars in here just representing that the invoices that we've kind of tested and played around with are outstanding by either 61 to 90 days or 91 plus days. And then lastly, so this is that sales over time. So I can use my revenue account filter and I can select donations. So what month is, are we getting the most donations in? And it would be June and July. So that'd be kind of a neat thing to be able to look at and track.
Yeah, that is.
All right. Awesome. Any questions on this homepage, any of these dashboards?
No, I think that's about it right now. That looks all looks pretty good.
All right, awesome. So now let's work under our account settings tab today next. So that's just going to be settings and account settings. I'm going to jump around tabs a little bit. The remaining of our sessions will just really focus under one tab at a time. So this one's a little bit more confusing to me, but let me go back to your site. So under our settings and account settings, the only thing that you'll really ever need to see in here is, I'm going to wait for it to populate. There we go, your account number. So once you've graduated from me and you've moved over to the help team, so that's when we've gotten your database input, we've got your notifications ready to start going out, all your members are in there, we'll graduate your account. And when you have questions, the only difference, of course, is instead of contacting me for your questions, you'll contact the help team. And they're going to ask for your account number. So that's always going to be right here. You don't have to memorize it or write it down or anything. It's always going to be under your account settings. It's also a great place to keep track of how many profiles you've used and how many prospect profiles you've used. So if you feel like you're getting close to this 5,000 number, or if you have gone over that 5,000 number, then you would want to look into potentially leveling up with us.
Okay.
I know you're not on Eastern time. You are on Central time. And your membership year, I haven't had a chance to change all this stuff yet. Does your membership year begin January 1st?
No, it begins July 1st.
Perfect. Thank you. We'll just go ahead and update this while we're in here. Oh, I'll have to be logged in as me. I'll do that later. So I'll change this to that July 1st date. Member number just means I'm going to leave this on. It's a great tool for me to use when I import your members. If you don't want your members to know what their member number is, we can hide that, and I'm going to show you where you can do that here in just a second. Are you guys using QuickBooks?
Yes, we are.
Perfect. So we'll leave that toggled on. This notification, so I've asked for an email in your account settings document. Where do emails need to go when when emails notifications come out from MemberClicks to your members and your members need to reply to those emails, where are they going? And so this would be that reply to email address. So I'll add that in from your account settings document. And then this is just billing contact info for MemberClicks. Okay. Any questions here?
No.
Awesome. So then the next thing we're going to look at are the financials. If you have somebody that might want to do a training with me just on the financial piece, I'd be more than happy to do like a 30-minute training with them, which is generally all we need. But I'm going to go ahead and go over that a little bit with you. So I'm just going to work under the financial tab and go to invoices. This is going to show us a list of all the invoices that have ever been created in the system. That includes open, paid, whatever the status may be. Obviously right now yours is blank, so this is something I'm going to go back to my MemberClicks test site under our financial tab and invoices to show you what it will look like once invoices have been created. So here are all of those invoices in the MemberClicks system. This is just like what yours will look like. So they'll be laid out by the invoice number, the type of invoice, first and last name, organization, status, whether it's paid, open, partial payment, whatever it may be voided, the total amount for the invoice, the due date, And then we have this actions column as far as viewing or voiding. Couple of really cool things in here, at least I think they're really cool. So let's say that maybe Christy says, oh, I just didn't get my invoice. I don't know what happened. You can come right in here, find it, so we can search her by first name, last name, invoice number, or organization. And then I can tag that profile, and I can email it to her. So that's just going to re-email the invoice to her so that she'll have it. Now, if somebody says, well, I paid, and I really just need a receipt, then you can find the paid invoice. In this case, this one is paid. We can email it that way, and it can act as a receipt. Now, your members will also have the opportunity to access all of these invoices in their profile. So when they log in to your site, they're going to be brought to a member landing page, and we're going to go over that in our social community training, which is our last training generally. And in that tab, there's a tab that says invoices, and so they can view open and paid invoices right in that area as well. They can also apply payments to open invoices, but I know sometimes, despite the fact that your members can do that, they're going to ask for you to send them sometimes, so you do have the ability to do that. You can also create a PDF, so if you have somebody that really just prefers receiving an invoice in the mail, you can print these off, so just create a PDF and print it.
Okay.
We can void our invoices, and then we can sort our invoices. So if we want to just look at the open invoices, I would select open. And this is going to show me all those open. If I just wanted to select the paid, I would just unselect open and look at paid. So I can do that for all of these statuses here.
Okay.
I want to go back to open for just a second so that I can show you what an open invoice will look like. So I'm going to dive into my invoice. Your invoice will look just like this one, but of course it'll have your logo in the top right-hand corner and your association information up here in the left-hand corner.
Okay.
Everything else will look the same, and this is a great example of a dues renewal invoice. So notice how this says membership renewal, the member type, which in this case is professional, and then the new expiration date. So this is exactly how your invoice will look. Of course, it'll have your member type and your expiration date on it, but this is just how a renewal invoice will look. There is a notes section on here. Keep this in mind because I'm going to show you where you can apply these notes. And then we've got a couple of other cool features down in here. You can add internal notes. Adding notes here or comments are only for you guys on the admin side to see. Your members will not see these notes. To me, this is super helpful because if I voided an invoice and then I walked away from my computer, literally 10 seconds later, I would forget why I voided it. So this is a great place to throw in those notes to just kind of jog your memory.
Okay.
You can also apply payments through here. So let's say one of your members sends you a check or however other type of method they might want to pay. You can find the invoice just as I've done here, select pay invoice, and then you can either apply their credit card information for them. Of course, they can do this on the front end as well, but if it is that check, you can use your payment type drop down. I'm going to select moolah. I'm sorry. I'm going to select offline payment. I lost my mind for a second. And then you can select what type of offline payment this is, whether it's cash, check, offline credit card, wire transfer credit, no payment other, whatever it may be, you can do that in here. If it's a check, you can change into a partial payment. Maybe it was only for $50. You can select the date received, and then you can put in the check number or any type of reference number if it's some other type of payment.
Okay. On this section, let's say, because we have a lot of members that are not very tech savvy, and let's say they send us their renewal with a credit card number, and they say, do this as a reoccurring payment. Are we able to save that credit card information here and check a box or whatever that would, be a reoccurring payment or not?
That's an awesome question. And so setting that up is a little bit more involved. There's some additional paperwork with Moolah. I know that it requires some additional fees as well. Something that I don't love about that is if somebody has a card that changes, it's going to be a failed payment. And we do have a notification we can send out for that, but it's a little bit cumbersome from my experience to try to collect that payment once it's failed. But if it's something that you want to do, I definitely don't want to deter you from doing it, and you would just need to reach out to Hart, who has handled everything with Moolah for you, and she can get you set up with that, no problem. And then once that's completed, I'll get it set up in the MemberClick side of things.
Okay, okay. Yeah, I mean, it's something that we've had some members express interest in, that they want to be able to just put it on their card or bank account or whatever, and it just, bills them every year and automatically deducted. So,
Mhm. Absolutely. If it's only a couple, it might not be worth that extra fee or whatever. I honestly don't know what it is. You could
okay,
ask Hart, and for you, it may not be worth it. But if you have, a good amount of members that have been asking about it, and maybe you think it would encourage more members to be a part of that, then it might be worth it for you. I would definitely look into it with Hart, and she'll get you set up.
okay, okay, thanks.
Of course. Um, Awesome. So I'm going to cancel. So that's just how you would apply a payment that you might have received on the back end. Of course, there's an easier way for your members to do that on the front end. Um, you can also create a credit invoice, void the invoice. You can download the invoice from here and print it out as well. So if I did that, and then I could just print it, and that's how it would look. Whoops, did I? All right, awesome. Something else that I love is after we have viewed the invoice, we can actually go to your member's profile directly from their invoice. So this view profile icon up here, it's the furthest left of these icons. If I select this, it's going to take me directly to your member's profile. And we can do so many things in here. I will review this with you here shortly as well, but we're going to come back to it. Okay. So this is going to bring me back to that invoice. Oh, no, yeah, back to the invoice. I'm going to go back to the invoice list. Before I keep moving, any other questions on invoices, how we view them, how we use them, all that kind of good stuff?
No, that all looks good. We probably will, and you may get into this a little bit more on the financial side, as far as bookkeeping on our side. Do we have to run reports? Does that automatically get exported to QuickBooks, or do we need to just set up that financial training that you talked about to go over that?
I would set up that financial training, but the way it works is you'll notice under the financial tab we have a transactions section. So this is a little bit of a different section. This is going to list all of your, this is basically how you would pull your transaction report. Are you guys on QuickBooks Online or desktop?
Desktop.
Awesome. So since you're on desktop, basically your accountants, and yeah, I'll definitely go over this with them because it might make a little bit more sense to them, but they're going to pull the transaction date. Usually that's monthly, but whatever system they've been using in the past, they can pull it from that, from the date period that they need it. And then at that point, we would export to an IIF. That's going to save to your computer. Going back into QuickBooks, it's really simple. You just go to, it's like File, Import, IIF, or Import IIF, and then you select it from your computer and bring it in. So I can go through kind of showing them this section, showing them all about the invoices, kind of like what we just went through. And then once you guys have graduated, and so I obviously have the training and experience in working with actually exporting it and putting it into QuickBooks, but it's not something I do often because you've already typically graduated by then. So it's really something our help team generally sees more often. And so we have one guy on our help team, Charlie, who's really great at providing that support. And so if you guys could get to that place and your financial guys are like, hey, we just don't feel comfortable or confident doing this quite yet, he can be on the phone with them and he'll actually walk them through exporting the transaction report and importing it into QuickBooks. Of course, if anything weird comes up with QuickBooks, he can't troubleshoot that, but he can help walk through the steps. And the only issue that I've seen with the transaction report coming from MemberClicks to QuickBooks is if those, and I think I said this to you already, but if the revenue account names are not the exact same as they are in MemberClicks as they are in QuickBooks, it'll create duplicate accounts in your QuickBooks, which is just really a big pain. So we really just need to make sure those revenue accounts are the exact same as you have them set up now.
Okay.
Awesome. So yeah, so this is just that transaction report. And of course you can search by revenue accounts, transaction types, payment types, credit card types, all that kind of good stuff. A couple other things to go over in the invoice area that we're looking at now is, so our next icon that we have here is for invoice templates. So I'm going to go back into your side of things and show you what this is. So when you created those notifications for me to let your members know when their dues renewal period is up, You sent that document to me, and I'm gonna get those input. So those are going to be housed in their own section. Think of renewals almost being in their own section of member clicks. It's a big deal for you, right? I mean, that's really how you bring in probably the most amount of your revenue. So we've got that housed in a totally separate area. But if you have a new member or somebody registers for an event or wants to make a donation or whatever it may be, sponsorship, that's all going to create a different type of invoice in our system. So we've got renewal invoices, and then we've got all these other different types of invoices that will be created as well. Since we've had the renewal notifications created, renewals are taken care of. So that means we're reminding those members when they need to pay their invoices, when they're in their grace period, when they're lapsed, so on and so forth. But those other types of invoices, we don't have reminders set up in our system letting them know that they need to pay those, letting them know that it's been created in their name, letting them know that they're coming up on their expiration date or past due, or we don't have anything letting them know that they've paid, meaning a payment confirmation email. So we've got these invoice templates, and this is a little confusing to me because it doesn't have anything to do with how the invoice actually looks, which to me is what a template means.
Right.
I'm glad you're following me. To me, I'm like template, and I'm like, oh, that's how the invoice is going to look. But it actually has to do with those additional notifications that would go out to remind your members to pay dues. So now let me actually show you and walk you through what I mean. We want to create a different invoice template probably for every type of invoice that will be created for you in your system. That doesn't mean that you create one for 2017 conference, 2018 conference, 2019 conference. You can really just have one conference invoice template that can be generic for all of those different types of invoices. But just to show you, I'm going to create a new one with you. And I'm going to make your renewal invoice. The reason, or renewal invoice template, the reason we need a renewal invoice template is because I still need the system to read that there's an invoice template, but we don't need any additional notifications. So we're going to leave these blank. And I'm also going to use this as your default, meaning if on a form or somewhere else in the system you forgot to assign what invoice template to use, it's going to pick up this one for us.
Okay.
So what we would do is decide when our invoice is due from the day it's been created. So we just come with that net due date. 30 days is pretty typical, but you can select any of those options. I pointed out a minute ago the notes section on the invoice.
Mm-hmm.
That would go in this area in the footer information. So this is going to be any notes that you want on the invoice.
Okay.
And then down in here we've got these additional notifications that you can create. So if you want to let your member know a new invoice was created in their name, you would just toggle on new invoice email. You would edit the email and add the verbiage that you would want to go out to that member, letting them know that, that invoice has been created.
Okay.
Same thing with the reminder email, reminding them 1 to 7 days before the invoice is due. Past due is just going to be letting them know 10 to 45 days from the time that their invoice is past due. And then we've got this payment confirmation email set up. So we don't need to fill out anything for renewal invoice. So this one is complete. However, you're going to want to probably complete one for new members. So if you have somebody new sign up with you, you're probably going to want them to receive some notifications reminding them to pay that open invoice if they didn't pay it on the spot. If they paid it on the spot, they would just receive the payment notification email. Is this making sense?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. If you guys are having events, any other type of invoice that you think that might be created in the system, I would go ahead and create that invoice template and set up those emails that you want to go out. So this would be one piece of homework that I would assign from our training today that you can go ahead and complete.
Okay. So with these, are these ones that I guess just so like take for instance our convention.
Mm-hmm.
We have different levels, different things that they can select. So do I create a template for that and then it goes out based on what they selected, or is this just reoccurring things like the membership renewals and stuff like that?
This would really just be reoccurring things. Now, let's say you needed to create a miscellaneous invoice down the road. You could create like an ad hoc invoice is what we would call that. You can create an ad hoc invoice template. And it is going to pull from that invoice template. So let's say somebody bought a T-shirt from you, and it was a one-off, and you need to pay, charge them for that T-shirt. You can create a ad hoc invoice template and go ahead and just make it very generic, so that those notifications will be sent to them on that as well. Did that answer your question?
Yeah. Because really, about the only recurring ones that I can think of are, renewal invoices, and then on our life member payments. Everything else, they would select different options, or they may not come this year and they may come next year or something. So we wouldn't send them invoices every year on it at a particular time.
Oh, I think I understand your question. You're meaning like if you had do you have any events? I think you do, don't you?
Yeah. We've got convention, we've got several different events throughout the year.
Yeah, so let's talk about that convention for a second. So if we created a form for the convention, aka like a registration form, so your member would go into your system and it would say, register for 2017 conference here. They would click that button, and it's going to take them through the form completion. So they're going to fill out all the information on themselves, and then at the end of that form, let's say that it cost them $200 to go to your convention in 2017. An invoice will be created for them for the 2017 convention for $200 that they'll need to pay. If you want them to receive anything from the system reminding them to pay that invoice, of course they know it's open and they've said invoice me later, potentially, because that's an option. We can give them the option to pay later. If you don't want them to have that option, they'll have to pay right then with their card information. But if you want them to have the opportunity to pay later, we would give them that option. They would select pay later, and then an invoice is created in the system.
Yeah, we wouldn't really use that option. Everything that we do, currently it's what they're used to. They just pay on the spot.
Okay.
When they log in for something and they register, they pay right then and there, and we don't invoice them or anything like that. So I'd like to keep them on that if we can, because otherwise it's going to get confusing and a lot of work for us, I think. So
absolutely. Yeah. So in that case, then we'll just go ahead and we really won't have to worry about that unless you do want them to receive a payment confirmation email. Would you want them to receive one of those?
That might be good, just kind of like a receipt saying, hey, you paid. That would be good, but we wouldn't need to do any invoices except for on renewals.
Gotcha, yeah.
With new members, if they join online, they pay on the spot. We don't invoice them. So.
Gotcha, absolutely. So in that case, I might say, events is the invoice template, and you can just set, you need to set when the invoice is going to be due. If you have any information that needs to show up in the invoice, you'd add that in, but really you would just need to have the payment notification email set up.
Okay.
Just kind of think through that, and I've got some articles and some resources I'm going to send to you that'll kind of help you walk through as well. But to me, invoice templates is a little confusing in our system. So if it doesn't make 100% sense right now, I'm going to reference this a good bit through the rest of our training, so I think it'll start to click as we work through.
Okay.
All right, awesome. So we also have invoice settings. This is just 3 tiny little things. We're going to have your logo in here. That's the logo that's going to show up on the invoice. I'm going to have your information in here, which I'm going to go ahead and throw in here for us. And then we can tell the system I just made a big mess, sorry. We can tell the system what invoice number we want to start at. So your accountants or financial team may have a specific account they want to start, or invoice number they want to start on. And you guys can just let me know. And you can also change this yourself. So you can just change that number and submit it. Okay. Then we have your revenue account. So this is where I'm going to add in all those revenue accounts you've provided. If you guys ever have a new revenue account that's been added to your financials or to QuickBooks, you can add it right in here. It's really easy. So you just select Add New Revenue Account. You would put in the name of the revenue account. The description is optional. And then if it's dues, you toggle on dues. If it's not, you leave it toggled off, and at that point you would save. So I could say, membership dues, toggle this on, and then we would save, and that's going to create the revenue account for us.
Okay.
Once you have money tied to a revenue account, meaning once you've told the system to send money or filter money into a specific revenue account, you won't be able to delete it.
Okay.
Because at that point in time, we would need to save that record, right? We would need to keep it for the record.
Right.
However, you can still edit it, even if that happens. All right. Lastly,
and so that's the revenue account names. Those are the ones that need to be exactly as they are in QuickBooks, correct?
Yes, sir. That's exactly right.
Okay.
Yeah, you got it. Lastly, we were just going to have your payment processor set up in here. Have you completed that application with Hart at this time?
I know Chancey was checking and she was comparing with Authorize, and we're real close to being able to make a determination of where we're going. So
that's right, because you were still deciding if you wanted to stick with Authorize.net or go to Moolah.
Right.
Awesome. Perfect. Awesome. Well, I'll go ahead and plug Moolah in here, but if you guys do decide to stick with Authorize.net, then I'll just change out that payment processor for Authorize.net, and that won't be a problem at all. Okay.
And I think one question that we've kind of had on that, I don't remember whether or not we asked you, but through MemberClicks, we're able to do they're able to purchase like merchandise, aren't they? Like we have caps or jackets or whatever. Are they able to do that here as well, or is that separate?
That is a great question. They sure can, and I can create a quote-unquote store for you in a form. I've done that in the past with a couple of the people I've worked with, so we can definitely do that. Okay.
Yeah, we'll probably want to do that, and I don't know if that's something we'll do immediately, because I know Nancy was checking into moving the website over to you guys and everything, and so then kind of a general store would be great.
Do you have a store up on your existing site?
We do.
Let's go ahead and, do you mind if we take a look at that for just a second?
Yeah, no, that's fine.
I just want to be transparent as far as what we can offer.
Okay, yeah, great.
Here we go. Okay. General store. Oh yeah, we can definitely do something like this.
So I mean, it's not super elaborate, but we do have a little bit of stuff, and we're trying to kind of grow that and get a little more stuff added to it. But
yeah, we can definitely do something very similar to this. It wouldn't be spot on exact.
That's fine.
But it would be similar. Yeah, we can definitely achieve something like this.
Okay, great.
Cool. I wonder what happens if I uncheck this. I don't think. Huh. That's kind of automatically calculate the total. I wonder what that's used for.
I guess out of my area of expertise, I'm not sure.
You're fine. I was just curious. I hadn't seen that on personal sites I'd shopped on, so I was wondering what difference that made. That's kind of neat. Okay, cool. Yeah, so we can definitely do something like this for you guys if you would want to move this over to our site. We can definitely achieve this.
Okay, cool.
Absolutely. All right. Any other questions on financials?
I think that's it right now.
Okay. So now I want to dive in a little bit more into our member types, those attributes for your member types, and kind of how I'm going to set up your member type when I go through that process. So the first thing I want to look at, I'm going to work into my database tab and go right to this attributes section. So just to kind of back up a little bit, I'm sure I've talked to you about this, but I like to emphasize this attribute kind of idea in MemberClicks because it's a huge component. So an attribute is just going to be a piece of information that describes me. And so you would save that piece of information in my profile. So if I'm your member, an attribute of me would be my name. So Adrian, of course, would be something you would save in my profile. We've broken the attributes up in our system into 3 different sections. So right now you can see on my screen built-in attributes. Built-in attributes are the first section of attributes, or first type of attributes that we have in MemberClicks. And you'll notice right here that's things like name, contact name, email address, physical address, phone number, and organization. Those are just things that we've seen across the 1,600 plus associations we've worked with that we know you guys collect on your members. Now, these attributes can't be deleted from your system. However, they can be manipulated. And so what I mean by that is you're not limited to collecting just first and last name on your members. Let's say that you've collected middle name, and when I take a look at your database, I'll be able to determine that a little bit more, and I'll adjust these attributes to fit your database. But like for name, if I dive in here, oh, I'm in MemberClicks again, of course. That's got a lot built out already. You're not going to have anything. Name. So right now we don't have any prefixes, middle names, or suffixes, but let's say you wanted to collect those pieces on your members, and we would just turn them on. And that would allow us to collect that additional information. Let's look at email address for just a second. Right now we've just got home added in here. I could change this to main, which is generally more fitting. And then we can collect up to 5 email addresses for one member. So you can say 5 email addresses in one member's profile. So that means we could create things like a secondary email, a business email, maybe a spouse's email or something like that, and then maybe a tertiary. Now I can't add any more. I've reached my 5 label limit, but I can collect each of these 5 email addresses in one profile. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah.
Awesome. So also just to go ahead and mention, any attribute that you have in the system that's been created, the second that you've tied information to that attribute, it will no longer be able to be deleted. The reason why is it's just preventing us from deleting a mass amount of information, right? That attribute could be linked to multiple profiles, so that'll just prevent us from accidentally deleting a lot of info that we can't get back. So these 5 labels that I just added to email, I can also do the same thing to physical address and phone number. So if you guys collected a fax or a cell, I can add all of those different labels in, and we can collect each of those phone numbers on your members. Okay. Then our second type of attribute would be custom attributes. So I'm going to look at your database, and if you've collected things like, is this person a board member, or is this person, what's their birth date? What committees are they a part of? Any additional information that you've collected that I wouldn't have known you would have collected on your member, I'm going to add right in here. So just to show you in MemberClicks some of those examples, I'm going to scroll right down here again. And so here are some custom attributes that were created for this particular fake association that we've created in here. So things like camera preference, budget, bio. You can have an internal notes field. So that means that I could create a notes custom attribute, and we would just permission it off so that your members wouldn't be able to see it. So that sometimes is helpful. Or a comment section that your members can add comments to, which can be helpful as well. Okay, does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah.
This is going to link, these 2 different types of attributes are going to link to forms, and you're going to see the relationship between forms and attributes when we get there. But basically, if we ever want to use a field on a form, so in the event registration form, if you're asking what's your birth date, and you want that information saved in your member's profile, we would have to create it as a custom attribute, or it would have to be something built in, that we manipulated in our built-in attributes to add to the form in order for the form to communicate with the profile and save the information. So it all is kind of linked together like a chain. And I'll make sure that we walk through that relationship when we get to the forms training. Okay, and then I mentioned we have 3 different types of attributes. So we went over built-in, we went over custom. The third are system attributes. We can't do anything with those. That's how our system is going to recognize your member, where they're at within their membership period, how much their dues are, all that kind of good stuff. So we can't change any of those fields, but we can obviously update the information that's been put into those fields. And I'll show you where we can do that within a profile here in just a bit.
Okay.
The last piece that I want to go over with attributes is attribute security and profile owner attribute security. Now, I won't be able to have you do these until we've added your member your profiles, your database in here. But just to kind of explain what these are, and I'm going to recap this on our next training, and then I'll probably assign it as homework at that point in time, but just to kind of tell you what these mean, your members will have the ability to view their profiles and update the information in their profiles. So profile owner attribute security is you telling them what they can update, what they can see, and what they can't see at all. So if you want them to be able to update their email address, but you don't want them to be able to update their physical address, we'll be able to permission that. You have full control over what they can and cannot do.
Okay.
On the other side of that, we also have a little bit of a directory component where your members have the ability to search other members for that networking piece. And so you can determine, once again, what your members can see in other members' profiles. Do you want them to be able to see their physical address, their email address, their name, their member type, stuff like that? So we'll be able to customize what your members can see in other members' profiles as well.
Okay.
Okay, cool. So the next thing I want to look at is under database and member types, and I know today's a lot of information. How are you doing so far?
Doing good, doing good.
Okay, awesome. The next training that we do is not this much info, so hang tight with me. So under this database tab and under member types, I'm going to look at that for just a second. This is where all your member types will be housed. So in MemberClicks, of course, we've already created all these member types. So any member type that you have, I'm going to create that in here. This is also where I'm going to edit their settings, those account settings that you provided. It's also going to be where I'm going to add in those notifications, so that notifications document that you provided. So I'm sorry to be switching back and forth, but I'm going to go back to your site, back to your member types, and I just want to walk through what these settings are. So we'll have the member type name that I'll add. You're not going to require approval for your members, so we'll leave this toggled off. If in the future you wanted to require approval, we would just toggle this on. Any custom attributes that I'm going to create, we can assign to each member type. So what that means is if you have one member type you need additional custom attributes collected on and it really doesn't apply to your other member types, I just won't assign it to those member types. That way it's not showing up in their profile and they're like, board of directors, we're not even allowed to be on the board of directors. You know, why is this showing up in my profile? We can prevent that from happening.
Okay, so like on that, we can ask for like the birth date on our junior members, but not on our annual members.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Then we have your member landing page, so I'm going to set that for your members, and that's just going to be when they log in, they're going to land on a page in MemberClicks. It's got like a cute name tag that'll data merge their profile info into, so they feel like they're being greeted to your site with specific information to them, you know, their name. We're going to look more at this at social community, so don't get caught up in that right now. We'll look at that later. Here's where we're going to determine our invoice template. So we would pick the renewal invoice template, right? Because we're going to set the notifications up here as well. So we don't need any other notifications going out. So we're going to select the renewal invoice template. I'm going to select, as of right now, the Moolah payment processor, and then we would select our membership dues revenue account or whatever revenue account that applies to your membership dues that I'll create. Now you guys are on a date-based member period, so I'm going to change this from period of time to date-based. I would set what their membership period is defined as, which would be a year, and then I would select my grace period, which would be, I think you said 4 months or 3 months?
3 months.
3 months. And then down at the bottom, I'm just going to put in how much their dues amount is, and this is how the system's going to know how much to renew their membership for. Okay. You're never going to have to go through this. I'm going to take care of it completely for you. I just like to show you what I do and why I do it. And so once I set up your member types, we'll walk through every member type I set up for you guys and just confirm that all the settings I've put in place are correct.
Okay. But like if we need to, let's say 2 years down the road, we decide to change our grace period from 3 months to only 1 month, then we can do that, correct?
You absolutely can. And of course, if you don't feel comfortable, like, oh, I remember 3 years ago Adrian told me how to do this, but man, I do not remember, which is probably going to be the case, then you can, you know, contact me or contact our help team, and they'll help you out from there.
Cool.
And then your notifications, so that's those notifications you sent me, I'm just going to set up in here. So I'm just going to add each notification in the renewal period and the grace period and the lapse period and then the payment confirmation. So this is only for renewals, right? So that's why we have to have invoice templates for other types of invoices. before I graduate your account, one of the things I'm going to have you do is come in here and make sure these notifications look good, because this is going to be what your members will receive when they get ready to pay their dues, right? So you really want to have your best foot forward when your members are receiving these. So we'll double check them together before we get ready to send them out. Okay, any questions on this section?
No, not yet.
Awesome. So I've just really got one more thing for us to get through, one more little section here, and that's going to be how you search your members, add new members, and view your members' profile. So I just want to go ahead and show you up here.
Go
yes,
there
sir?
on this database tab. It said something about the admin permissions. Is that where we're able to, you know, the vast majority of staff here, you know, just need to be able to get in and look up memberships and potentially change an address if they need to. You know, all this other stuff they won't need to do anything with, and just to keep somebody from getting on a wrong tab and changing something that doesn't need to be changed. Is that where we're able to assign those permissions to different individuals?
That's exactly right. So let me, and you beat me to something, which is perfect, because it's always, this is kind of a difficult piece of member clicks for me to segue into, so this is awesome. So we just got done talking about member types, right? And so I'm going to set up all those member types, and that's going to determine the length of your members' membership period and how much your members pay in dues. So what that means is if you have a member type that has a one-length long member period that renews every year, and then you've got a member type that renews every 3 years, I would have to make 2 different member types for that. Pretty much, if you've got a member that member type that pays $300, and you've got another member type that or another dues amount that's $500, I would make those 2 different member types. So that's kind of what the member types are going to determine, why I need to create separate ones, which is always really straightforward. When I set up that member type or those member types in your system, the system is automatically creating groups on the back end. So for every member type, there's a mirror image group. And so groups determine permissions in the system, what your members cannot do, what your members can and cannot see. The reason those are 2 different things is because member types, your members can only be part of one member type at any given time. So I can't be 2 different member types. I can only be one, right? Because otherwise that means I have a duplicate profile, which means you're paying twice for me. You're giving up 2 custom profiles for me, which isn't efficient for you guys. So I can only be in one member type at any given time, but I can be in multiple groups at any given time. So let's say I'm in my member type, and then you also want to give a board of directors some additional permissions. Maybe it's permissions on the front end where there's some additional content they need to see, or maybe it's permissions on the back end where you want to be able to allow them to search your members and export your members and stuff like that, view your members. That would be how we would do that as well, is setting up a group. So we can give groups administrative permissions on the back end of the site. So yeah, you're exactly right. So I would use this admin permissions, and you'll notice, there's just that test member type in here, but when I create your other member types, they're all going to be listed in here. And so you can say, and these are a little bit coded to me, like they're a little bit like, they house different permissions, and I'll send you the article on what these mean. But you have like a financial admin. So if you have your financial team and you want to allow them in here, you just give them financial admin permissions. So that way, if they're in a member type because they're paying member type dues, you would just add them to the financial group as well.
Okay.
This is a little bit of a difficult concept also to me. So I'll send you an article on it. I think it's a video, and you can walk through it and see if that helps, and then we'll set it up together. I wouldn't ask you to set any of this up yourself.
Okay, cool.
Okay. All right. Any other questions on this part?
No, I'm pretty sure I understand this. So like if we've got our executive committee and, they represent a district within the state, we could give them some administrative capabilities to where instead of asking us for a list of drop members within their district, they'd be able to go in and pull that information.
Yes, sir. That's exactly right. Spot on.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. All right, so then just to get through a couple of these other little pieces, we've got our search bar. You can search your members by first name, last name, organization, or email. So I love this. So as you search, those members are just going to pop right up underneath here for us. And then you can select, if you know, okay, there's only one Jeff, here you are, let's go to your profile. Now we're in your profile. To explain how the profiles are organized, let's go back to thinking about how we discussed the attributes. So left-hand box up here, built-in attributes, right? Right-hand box over here, these are system attributes, okay? And then at the bottom, we're going to have a summary of built-in, and then right below this, we're going to have all the custom attributes listed.
Okay.
You can dive right in here, and you can edit any of these fields if you want to. So if I needed to change the expiration date, I would just change the expiration date. Some other things that you can do in here is, let's say, oh, that Jeff, he hasn't been paying his dues. Let's look at these invoices and see what's open. We're going to go to your invoice tab, and then all of the invoices that have been created in the system for you are going to be listed right in here, whether they are paid, unpaid, open, partially paid, whatever it is, they're going to be listed in here.
Okay. Okay.
If you want to view all form submissions, that's going to be listed under the Submissions tab. If we create committees or e-lists, which we're going to talk a little bit more about as we get through our trainings, if we create committees or e-lists, you'll be able to see which e-list or committees this member is a part of. Message history is going to house every message that comes from member clicks to your member. So if somebody says, Jeff, I did not receive my renewal email this year, you can go right in their profile and say, well, the emails are, we sent it out. Maybe we don't have the right email address on file for you. What is your current email address or something like that?
Right, right.
Your members on the front end have some contact preferences they can set. One of those contact preferences is they can unsubscribe from all emails. However, even if they unsubscribe from all emails, they're still going to receive renewal notifications and form confirmations, which is a big deal because they need to make sure they're receiving those. Maybe you send out newsletters. Let's say one of your members calls you up and says, Jeff, I'm just not receiving your emails. This is awesome because you can go right in their profile and double check and make sure they didn't accidentally unsubscribe themselves, because you can just resubscribe them if they did.
Okay.
And then lastly, we've just got that attributes tab, which is going to circle us right back to where we started. Okay. Awesome. So now we also have our profile list that we can use. So if I click this big green profile list, it's going to bring me to a list of all the members we've got in your system, which right now is just 2 plus me. We can do some really cool things with this list. So when everybody's in here, it's going to become overwhelming to search for members. That's why we've got this advanced search feature. So if I select advanced search, it's going to give us the ability to search your members by all of the attributes we've discussed today. Everything I import, you're going to be able to search by. All form submissions, so did they complete a form submission of, and then it'll bring down the forms that we've created. Here's that event status management portion. So this is where you can say, let's search by people who registered, did not register, canceled, attended, or no-showed, and then we would select the event that they did that action to. Then at the bottom, we have the ability to search deleted profiles. You do have the ability to mark your members deceased. And then, of course, lapsed. Grace and active, you won't be using the pending, because once again, that's only if you require approval for your members. I do want to go ahead and mention, when you delete profiles from member clicks, it's more similar to archiving than deleting. They're not going to be gone. Yeah, they're not going to be gone forever. You can always search them and restore the profile, just as it was when you first deleted it. Okay. And then up here, so like I mentioned, one of my favorite things is you can search by expiration date. So who's expired in the last 90 days, last 30 days, last 7 days, so on and so forth. You can even create a custom date. So I think that this is really cool. You can also add criteria. So if you want to know, who expired in the last 90 days, that is, whichever of your member types that you want to search by. In this case, it would just be the example member type, member. Then we can just search based on 2 criteria. And so we can match all criteria, which just means that they'd have to have expired in the last 90 days and be the member type. Or we could match any criteria, which means they'd be in the last 90 days or be the member type.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, cool. So once you've used those search features and you've gotten the list of people that you want to take an action to, so let's say I've used my search and it's just these 3 profiles. I would tag all of my profiles, and then you're going to notice my actions button is going to become available. Lots of things we can do with this actions button. So we can undelete and delete profiles. So undelete is a big one. We can remove to groups and add to groups. So that would be like that additional group that you mentioned creating to give admin permissions to. If you wanted to add a group kind of like in a mass way, like you know that everybody with this specific attribute would be a part of that group with extra permissions, and we can search that group and add them to the group. We can change member types. We can override member statuses, so we can change the status of a member. We can create an ad hoc invoice. We can export. Exporting will allow us to choose exactly which attributes we want to export into an Excel document, which is really cool because that will prevent you from getting a bunch of info that you didn't necessarily need.
Right, right.
And then lastly, we've got this cool contact button. When I select contact, this is going to move me over to our contact center. We're going to go through this in more detail on our content training. But right in here is how you can, I'm going to have some templates that I'm going to create and save in here for you. You'll be able to select those templates. An example would be your welcome email. That's going to pull into our editor, which we're going to talk more about in that content training. You can design that email, and then you have the opportunity to send this now, or you can schedule it to send at a later date. And I always joke and say, you know, if you're a night owl, you can stay up until 11 working on emails and schedule it to go out at 7 in the morning so everybody thinks you're on top of your game.
Right.
Which is great. And if you send something now, it's going to sit in a queue for 5 minutes. So if you're like, man, I found a typo, you know, after reviewing it, I really need to change it, you can cancel the email and you can resend it. You can make that change and resend it. We'll talk more about this later, though.
Okay.
Lastly, this teal question mark down here in the bottom right-hand corner is going to be an awesome resource for you. So if we select this teal, do you see it down here? Uh-oh, you there?
Yeah.
Do you see what I'm talking about, the teal?
Yes, yes.
If I say ASA Help Center login, that's you. You're an ASA. And of course, don't allow pop-ups. This is going to bring you to our resource center. This is also where you're going to, well, this is wrong, but you're going to send out, you'll be able to submit requests to our help team. But I also just wanted to point out, always work under the MemberClicks documentation button right here in the middle. If you ever see this word classic from our previous product and it looks completely different than what you're working in now, so it will just confuse the heck out of you. So if you go into MemberClicks documentation, here's all of the articles and resources that I'll be sending to you in my follow-up emails.
Okay.
But you can, if you just want to learn more, if the weekend comes up and you're just really bored and you want to dive in, you know, you can absolutely do that in this section. We've got some great resources.
Okay.
All right. And that is it for today. You feeling okay?
Yeah, I'm excited about it. It looks pretty neat.
Okay, awesome. Well, I've got a Tiffany to jump on the call with, but I know we've already got our next meeting scheduled for Friday. If you could get in the system and maybe go ahead and get some of those invoice templates created and just familiarize yourself with the stuff we went over today, that would be hugely helpful for us to dive into that next training. Okay?
Okay. Will you send me the I assume you're going to send me the information to log in and all that good stuff?
Yes, sir. If I haven't already, I should have sent it in our follow-up from our kickoff call, but I'll go ahead and resend it to you.
It may be there. I'm not sure.
Yeah, no worries. I'll send it.
Okay. And I definitely want to get that financial meeting scheduled, or the training with the gal in our office who handles all of that, just so that two of us are looking at it and understanding and everything. So.
Absolutely. Sometimes it's easiest if you want to send her an email and copy me on it, and then she can give me her availability for next week, and we can get something on the book. Okay?
Sounds great.
All right. Thank you so much for your time today, Jeff. I hope everything was great and made sense, and just let me know if you have any questions. Otherwise, I look forward to talking to you on Friday.
Okay, will do. Appreciate it, Adrienne.
Yes, sir. I appreciate you. Have a great afternoon. Bye.
All right.